Okay, welcome to the CrossFit Canada podcast, telling the stories of Canadian affiliates and coaches, uniquely Canadian, uniquely stories. And I figured no better way than to start with Matthieu Dubreucq. I was thinking about this before we got started. Do you think if we found any person in Canada, what degree of separation would we get to that you've probably worked with that person's level, done a level one with that person? Like how many degrees of separation would it be before we found someone you did a level one with them?
I'm not sure, but probably one. Because it's either like Jason, so then boom, okay, I know Jason, here we go. Or maybe not, maybe not. Maybe we go back to a couple of OG people like Jocelyn or Ricardo, like some of the early level two, like the old level four.
Sure.
Might have 2 or 3 separations, but pretty slim.
That's right. So just like in a class, when a new person comes in, we're going to do question of the day. So go ahead, introduce yourself, and what was your first car?
Ooh, my name is Matthieu Dubreucq, or Doobie, and my first car was a Pontiac Sunbird.
Okay. 2 or 4 door?
4-door, turquoise.
I like it. And I'm Matt Spencer from CrossFit Aurelia, and my first car was a Geo Storm. It was teal, and it had 3 doors. There's a 3-door, so 2 doors, and then the hatch at the back. So, but in all honesty, let's go ahead and so we know who you are. What's cool about even just being able to do this podcast, like I said, in joking, is that many either did their level one with you or their level 2 or know someone who has. But I think what's unique about, as we record this right now, your not only CrossFit journey, but your journey as an affiliate owner has kind of gone into a circle from there. So give us, if I said like, hey, what is your affiliate owner journey in 60 seconds? Talk me through that, and then let's unpack it a little more.
In 60 seconds, okay. Open one of the first affiliates, very, very small. Got gradually bigger all the way to 10,000 square feet. Then went smaller and smaller and smaller all the way to closing and going in my garage. We're back to like an average Canadian size of 5,000-ish, like square feet. Different names, definitely different names, 3 different names, and 6 different locations.
So when you say like, he's probably seen it all, it's like you're right up there with that. Like, you have probably seen it all. So how did you, let's go back to the beginning for, again, those who don't know, like, maybe you don't get to unpack it as much at a level 1, but how did you get into CrossFit? Let's start there. I always love hearing these origin stories.
I remember like if it was yesterday, 2007, around the 10th or 12th of January, so early January. I was in a parking lot in Miami and getting ready for a sailing competition. And one of my coaches is like, hey, Doobie, you should try a CrossFit workout. Hit like CrossFit.com and double check like the workout of the day, the WOD, and try it. And it was Helen. I tried it with like a fellow American sailor who knew how to CrossFit a little bit better than me. I don't know where he is now, but at that time, definitely better than me. And he crushed me like by finishing 1 round before me in a 3-round workout. And that got me hooked, right? The type of stuff that was getting me hooked onto new things at that time was, wow, it's something I don't have all the answers, so I'd like to go get the answers.
How did you then, what was kind of the journey then from that moment into, say, like beginning your coaching journey as a CrossFit coach?
Yeah, the next day I went back on the website and I was like, what is it that they're selling, right? Because we're always trying to just buy something.
Right.
I didn't really get it that the workout was posted every day, right? I thought that was just a free workout that they're giving. So I figure out, okay, well, let's go take a look at what they're selling. And I found a DVD. They called it Try This at Home, Volume 1. And it was a bunch of benchmarks, all the girls' benchmarks done by Chris Amundsen and Mike. I can't remember his name. He's been a video guy like after for CrossFit for a long time, but two massive dude, at least like for a very small sailor, destroying these workouts, like doing grace in like 2 minutes, unheard of for like, me. I couldn't even clean 135 with classical music and just a workout, no instruction, and basically just try this at home. So I started to like do the DVD. I didn't even know you could follow the main site. Start to do the DVD.
Wow.
And start to get some good results. And then start to understand that the website that's other stuff to offer. The CrossFit Journal, got into the CrossFit Journal, and then luckily CrossFit Montreal just opened when I got back home in Montreal, and then I just signed up in an affiliate.
What year? What would that still be? 2007 then? At this point?
Yeah, 2007. Yeah.
So then, how long before you started coaching at Cross? I guess maybe a better question would be: you started attending an affiliate. How long before you did your first level 1? And tell me about who was kind of on staff there.
Yeah. So I got to CrossFit Montreal. I bought a punch card, 10 classes. I went to 2 classes, and I was already doing butterfly pull-ups. And at that time, there was a guy called Rock Poto who now owns like Pro One, and he was trying to qualify for the games. The games 207 was already done. He was trying to qualify for the 08 games. And he was like, yo, teach me this butterfly thing. Like, let's go. So I started teaching the butterfly thing, and the owner, Jacques, is like, wait a second, isn't this guy new? Like, isn't, because I didn't tell him. I tried it on my own for a while. And so he's like, would you like to coach? So after 2 classes, already like I started coaching, which is probably not what you should do. In my case, I mean, I was already, level 3 in skiing, level 3 in sailing, like level 4 in sailing actually, and then like, giving seminars and all this. So I guess I sounded like I knew what I was doing, not in the CrossFit world. But so I did this. Then the owner is like, you got to go get your level 1. So I went to Hyperfit in Michigan. Doug Chapman, who used to be Julie Foucher's coach. So went there. And the staff was huge at that moment. There was Adrian Bosman, Tony Budding, Dave Castro. There was the owner of Again Faster. What was his name?
Yeah, I'll think of it.
I can't remember. Anyway, it's gonna come back. But he was there. Joe DeGain was interning. Dave Lipson was interning. Dave Castro was there. I don't know if I said it.
John Gilson, sorry.
John Gilson, that's it. And at lunch, John Gilson was about the same weight as me. He must have been like 135, 140. At lunch, he deadlifted 4 plates. And I was like amazed by it, right? I was just like, oh my goodness. At that point, my deadlift was probably 225. And so I was like, how does this small dude like can be this strong? So I don't remember much at the level 1, mainly because my English wasn't very good at the time. And but I do remember getting my first muscle up. I do remember doing Fran, not from the rack, because back then we were taking the bar from the rack, at least where I was training. And they're like, no, we're gonna clean it from the ground. And I remember that I wasn't really confident that I could clean 95 pounds. I also remember Katie, Bill's wife from Rogue, and Bill being there when like they're telling us, if you want equipment, we have a little garage company called Rogue.
Wow.
And we can provide equipment. And Katie destroyed me at Fran. She did it RX, but like 95 pound RX. Destroyed me at Fran. And yeah, that was some of the reason why, like, I remember the nutrition lecture and her being really invested in zone. And that's what made me start zone, because like this girl destroyed me. I didn't know who she was. I mean, obviously, woman NBA, she won the games that year. Like, I mean, amazing athlete. I didn't know that, but I was like, if that does this to her, I would like some of this.
For sure. Yeah, it's that classic, like, what are you doing? I'm going to do that. And what's good for the goose should be good for the gander. Was this still when it was a 3-day level 1, or was this still a 2-day?
No, it was just starting. It was actually one, if not the first one, that coach wasn't at.
Okay.
And I remember being a little bit disappointed because I would see all the videos, and then I'm like, oh, like, where is he? And he's not. He wasn't there.
There's a certain element of the evolution of level 1 seminars for you to say, you just laid out the pipe hitters that were at your seminar, and then you're like, it'd be cool if Dave or if coach was there.
Yeah, that's crazy. Huh? Oh, another participant. So I was the only French guy there, and there was the youngest guy in the class was James Hobart.
Wow.
And actually, when you look at that picture of her level 1, I can't remember who else. Candice was there. Candice. There's 3 people from that picture on seminar staff now, like participants.
Yep.
There's like Bill and Katie owning Rogue. It's like, it's quite crazy. Like when I look back at that picture, how many people are still involved.
Right. So how do you get from that moment to opening the doors of CrossFit Laval?
I just told the CrossFit Montreal guy, like, hey, I'm studying to be a phys ed teacher, and I don't really like the program I will be forced to teach, right? So I'm thinking of opening a gym. At that moment, actually, I got kicked out of a university gym for doing kipping pull-ups and smuggling chalk like inside the gym. So I'm like, oh, there must be a couple of crazy dudes like me that would like a gym where you're allowed to do that. So I'm like, let's go. Let's open a gym. So I told Jacques, hey, would you open a gym with me? Because I'm going to do this. And he's like, sure, let's do it. And he told me it pays to be like the first one somewhere. So he's like, let's change city. I wasn't from Laval, right? He's just, what are you thinking about? We go to the next city and we open the first CrossFit in that city. And that's why we selected like Laval.
And you've lived there this whole time since then.
Yeah.
Wow. So describe what those kind of, because it's interesting, like there was that rare period of time in that early adopter phase. It's not that it wasn't without its challenges, but was it a lot of word of mouth marketing? Like, did you start with 3 people, then they told 3 friends, and they told 3 friends? Like, what was that growth journey like for you at Laval?
It's weird because it was really like build it and they will come type of thing.
Yeah.
Like, I had studied marketing because prior to phys ed, like I had like a business degree in marketing and IT in e-commerce, basically. From 2000 2003, when that was also like a fringe thing and like less than 1% of the market was online. And so I was all like, we're going to do marketing and all this. And Jacques was like, dude, just coach well. And I was like, really? But like, how are they going to know that we're open, And he's like, don't worry. Just keep posting your scores on CrossFit.com right in the comments and just tag the gym. Keep putting. And then, so we're in the first month, we're not open. We're just getting the thing ready, right? Like, and there's already some people like, yeah, I heard this is going to be a CrossFit gym. How can I sign up? And so at that moment, I start to be, oh, you know what? Maybe what I know from marketing is a bit different because I'm doing nothing other than welding a rig right now. And people are coming in asking to like get memberships. And I'm not even ready to like provide a workout. So yeah, that really, in those old days, it was really different than now, I would say, in sense that there was definitely a small portion of the population, a little bit everywhere in North America, looking for a gym and being excited, and then doing the marketing, telling all their friends, I found one.
Right.
You should go.
So, and then, I mean, like to completely jump ahead to where you're at now, how have you noticed, because, without giving too much away, but you then went from a training club in your garage to now you're back to full on brick and mortar affiliate owner. So how has, I don't know what the right word would be, like comparison? Were you shocked? Were you like, oh, this is way different? How has your initial kind of feelings been in the new venture?
Well, first, I didn't really I wasn't really looking for, so that's like the full circle. Like now is my, at first I opened the gym and I hope like people were going to be looking for me.
Right.
And then after like the gym kind of found me, right? I wasn't like actively looking at starting a gym at all. Just a bunch of old members sent me a message saying like, hey, our gym is going to be for sale. And then some old members from the gym and the garage are like, hey, we're thinking about buying this, but we're only buying it if you're in it. And frankly, at first I was even like not interested, right? Like I'm happy with my balanced life. Like, and so it's more like they kept pushing, and the more, and I guess what I was a little bit afraid of is I remembered how hard it was to like build up the business from zero. And so I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that again, because it's a different, I mean, as you know, like if you're an owner, like yes, the members might come on their own, but you're still gonna need to work a lot at making sure they get what they want, and a portion of what they want, a portion of what you want. So then they keep improving, and so that's going to be a challenge. And I was happily surprised. I talked to Jason and Pete, two other film masters from Canada, about this, how rewarding and fulfilling like it is. Like, yes, it's some work, but if I would have remembered how fulfilling it was, I would have not been afraid to like, take it on. Because yeah, like, we've only been open for 4 months and already some people are achieving stuff that they couldn't achieve for 10 years. That's pretty cool to see, right? Like that gives you the motivation to keep going, to potentially have the difficult conversation, or to go through like I need to figure out a way to pay for this or to do this, or right. But it is truly like a fantastic job to be able to wake up in the morning and know that at least 95% of what you're going to do today is going to have a positive impact on someone. Like it's, right, I'm happy I did not go the route of going into an office job where you're not too sure what's your true impact, which is good for some people. But now I realize I would probably not feel as excited about going to work as I am now.
Well, and I think what I'm hearing too, which is very cool, is as you said, that first advice that was given to you when opening CrossFit Laval is just coach really well, put a good product on the floor. And I'm gonna guess, new venture, the only thing, not the only thing, but the one thing you'll be able to 100% do on the first day is coach really well. And is that what you did?
100%. I mean, the first, our goal was really, let's make sure that not only we coach well, but let's make sure also that the coaching staff is being helped to do it, and that also they see it as a fulfilling journey in terms of a nice balance of it's fulfilling, but I can also make a living, right? Because of course, what burns you down is only, and that was probably a mistake, and I got lucky that I was in an early adopter where regardless of what you did, people were going to come. But in the early version, CrossFit Laval, I was definitely 95% passionate about CrossFit, 5% thinking about the business, right? And luckily the market could allow that. I'd say now I'm definitely 50-50, and I know that it's necessary in order to ensure that your team and yourself can still be fulfilled by that passion, because they don't need to worry. It's like the Maslow pyramid, right? Like it's like, you want to be fulfilled, you got to make sure you can eat, like you can have a house, you can have like, right, like you can't be worried about paying rent next month too. So like the business part is really important, because if not, you start to believe you'll need to take the wrong decisions in order to then do the short-term business stuff, rather than having a good plan and making it part of the plan that you need to make money. Like you can't just like to do thrusters and pull-ups.
So yeah, that's so cool, because it's like, if you think about really this kind of unique, I think of the affiliate, at least in North America, the affiliate world right now, I have a hypothesis that we're kind of on this 5-year turnover cycle with most affiliate owners, where, you know, they buy the gym, last about 5 years on passion, and then more or less are kind of burnt out, and then sell it to someone else and rinse and repeat. And, you know, hopefully we can break that cycle. But I guess my point of bringing that up is, how many people do you think have owned an affiliate in the past? And if you were to ask them if they would do it again, their first reaction would be, hell no. But you're almost saying like, wow, there was so much of this stuff that I loved about being affiliate owner is still the exact same today.
It's still the exact same. And yeah, that's full transparency. I was 50-50.
You, all right, back and rolling again. So what you were saying about the excitement from the past is still there. The same things are still there now. Continue with that thought.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that it's to piggyback on what you're saying. I think that what was preventing me or was making me contemplate not taking the opportunity to reopen was only the fact that I remembered the negative things of not planning the business. That then hurts your passion, and then you're like, oh, I remember passion is fun for 5 years, but then it's going to wear off. Where realistically, I think that it's just an inbalance. You became a specialist. You became a specialist in only being passionate about the thing, and you forgot that, you know, we're generalists. And if you want to be a good gym owner, I mean, it's the same thing as CrossFit programming. You got to need to be a generalist. You need to know a bit of accounting. You need to know a bit of marketing. You need to know a little bit of legal stuff. You need to know a little bit of psychology. You need to know. And if you only say, I'm only going to do what I like, it'd be the same analogy as in programming. You're only biasing your programming into like heavy lifting, but then you're going to complain that you can't run, right? Like
right.
It'd be the exact same thing to me. And everyone understands that with training, but it seems like once it's a business, we just like lose our mind, right? We're just, no, like you need to be, you know, to a certain point, sometimes people will even tell you, no, you need to run only on passion, only do what you want. It's like, I get it, but if I only do what I want in training, am I going to become fitter? No, that's different. I'm like, it's not different, right? Like, it's like you need to plan and work on your weaknesses.
So it's so true. And, you know, exactly, like what you don't want to see come out of the hopper is probably the thing you need the most work on. It'd be the same thing with your business, the task you don't want to do. Now, of course, you can automate and delegate some things, but that's another.
Yeah, but if we push it, right, it's like
right.
we do that even in our programming. You could have someone program the aerobic side and someone gymnastic and all this, but you still need someone who's the maestro, right, and mix this all together. And in order to make it a good product, that person needs to be relatively good in all these spheres to be able to do it. And I think, to me, like, that's the ideal business owner of a CrossFit gym. They don't do everything, but if they had to do it, they could decently do it, which means that when they delegate, they don't just go like this, you do your thing. They can offer feedback. They can offer also with like, hey, don't work only in a silo, man. Like, you know, actually, like, you know, the programmer, for example, it's like, hey, let's get some feedback from the coaches. Your classes are too long, right? And it's not just the coach's fault. Like, what can we do, right? Like, can we shorten the warm up? Can we have, like, you know, maybe like start to put 2 or 3, 4 minutes less in the intensity part, just to see if the coaches can adapt. But that takes the owner to do this. And that could be a whole different podcast, right? And that's why business coaching is probably really, really good, because how can you see your own blind spots, right? It's really hard in as an athlete, and that's why you need a coach. And so it's the same thing in business. I don't see my blind spots, because by definition, they're my blind spots. I need someone to be like, hey, Matt, have you thought about this? Or you tend to always answer this way. You tend to always, look in the back mirror. That's your accounting, right? Instead of like using it to plan, like you,
Right.
and so you'll need people to do that. It doesn't, I'm definitely not against getting a team of people that can do it, but I would be against the hands off. I'm not going to tell you anything, and no one's in charge.
Right.
At least, if not, it needs to be a manager if it's not the real owner. But like someone needs to coordinate everything, or everyone's going to lose their passion, type of thing. Like you said, after 5 years.
Well, and it's no different, I think, than, again, staying with that like analogy of CrossFit, is the owner or the coach who stops taking classes. And I'm always guilty of this as an owner, just from a time standpoint, to say it's like I can probably get my workout in 25 to 40 minutes. I know if it's the difference between yes or no that day, I will pick it. But to do a class, I will do something in that class that I wouldn't have done on my own. Sometimes it's just warming up more or practicing the skill a little more. And or even just having a coach lend an eye and say, like, because their eyes on you is something you don't have. And seems like that's something that I don't know if it's missing or if it's not encouraged or just needs more of in the affiliate landscape, is either asking each other for help or just saying, hey, can you take an eye on my business and let me know some things or what you see.
Yeah, it's really hard because it's painful, right? Like it's never fun to receive feedback on something that is easily mistaken for your identity, right? We're all coaches,
Right.
and we're proud of being coaches. And so if someone critiques, even if it's constructive, something that has to do with coaching, it's very hard to not take it personally, because it's part of your identity, right? So it'd be the same thing as if I say I don't like the color of your eyes, like you should change it. I mean, like, I dare you, right? Like saying, like, but that's the normal human way to react. And to a certain point, I now look for people that get upset when I give them feedback as people that are really passionate about coaching. I'm like, well, okay, we that proves to me that you're very passionate, right? Like, and that it means something, because if not, you wouldn't react, you wouldn't care, right? So I like that. I like that, like, you're pushing back. Now let's learn how to use this positively, right? Like, let's learn how to use that 10% discomfort and give me, maybe even coach me on how I can put you 10% this, like, outside your comfort zone, and not 50% outside your comfort zone, right? Because maybe I need to learn too.
Right.
But 100% that it needs to happen. And I mean, when people don't want to learn, I start to have, and that's a judgment, right? Because everyone can change, but I start to have a really hard time to continue the conversation type of thing if they don't show any opening to, like, finding a way that we can communicate in that way. Because I mean, I've been crossfitting for 18 years, and last weekend I learned something, right? Like, it's like, so when you tell me, like, there's nothing I can learn, I'm like, and you're really set in your ways, I think that maybe it's for good reasons. You lost the passion a little bit and all this, but it should pull the trigger, right? That it should pull a trigger in your own head with, like, well, wait a second, if I don't care about getting better, what should I do to start caring a little bit more? And it might have to do with personal stuff. It might have to do with taking a break. It might have to do with, like, right, everyone's different. But it is the key element, I think, that makes CrossFit really, really special. Like, it's a community of people that for a good part of their life, they are very open to trying to be a better version, whether physically, health-wise, or coach-wise, right? And it's pretty rare to find that to that degree, right? Because no one is perfect in CrossFit, and I'm not going to say that every affiliate and every CrossFitter is perfect. That's not the point. But there's a strong concentration of people that have, to me, like the right values to excel in life. And it's usually being taught by sometimes harsh ways, but by learning how to like receive feedback.
Well, and I think what is interesting specific to you that maybe a lot of folks don't know is like you're just someone who's generally remained perpetually curious about everything. You know, we've talked at many dinners how you read the Quran just to see what it was about, reread the Bible, studied mathematics, like just to figure out, not even, I guess, figure out, because that implies some sort of like getting to a destination of knowing, but just having a general curiosity to say, I don't know everything. And in fact, I don't know anything in a way. And how has that approach kept this fresh for you, even after all these years?
I think I mean, there must be a component that is either genetic or that comes from the way you're raised, like at an early age or something, for sure. That being said, I think that you can all learn how to do it, but I think I might, right? It's really easy. I'll give you a different, different subject, but to answer the same thing. When I started CrossFit, I was very, very light. And part of that made me really good at gymnastics, right? I was one of the first one to do like 100 pull-ups unbroken. I was the first one to like do that type of stuff. And that made me believe that my technique and programming was really good for gymnastics. And then I started to want to improve my fitness. I gained a bit of weight, good weight, and my gymnastic became normal. Turns out what I believed was my edge wasn't my edge, right? The programming and the technique wasn't my edge. My weight was.
Right.
So, and this happened many, many different ways in other sports I did, sailing, fencing, rollerblades, and all this, where you truly believe you're like, hey, my strength is this. And then 2, 3, 4, 10 years later, you realize it wasn't. You realize that was just a smoke and mirror. And because you stopped learning, because you're like, I'm very confident, I'm good in this, that's usually what you can later on see that was the end of your progress, right? The end of the progress in my gymnastic would have been to stay light and to believe wrongly that my programming is amazing. I would have never tried to make it better. Every person giving me feedback, I'm like, listen, I can do 100 pull-up unbroken. My programming is just fine. How many can you do? Right? Like it makes you entitled to do this. So because of all these things happening, I'm always just trying not so much to be curious and to learn stuff externally, that's just the byproduct, but just learning like, what do I believe wrongly, right? What do I believe is my edge? Like, I believe I'm a really good coach because I have a good eye. Is that true? Right? Or what could that be hidden by, right? Maybe I have a good eye because I don't have a really good teaching. And so the faults are so gross after my teaching that I can see them. Right? Then all of a sudden my teaching gets better, my eye goes down, my seeing goes down, right? Like, so that's why I'm always trying, I'm more curious of that. I'm curious of like, what are my so-called strength hiding? Because every single time I truly believed I had a strength, I later on realized it wasn't the root strength. Like, it wasn't that reason that gave me that strength. And so that pushes me all the time to try to understand more. So then I could, in a sense, it's egocentric a little bit, but then I try to get people to benefit from it. But really, it's a personal quest of what is it that you think you're really good at, and truly 99% of the time, you'll be shocked to realize you are good at that, but not for the reason that you believe. Right?
Right. How have you taken that into this new phase?
Wow. This new phase, my number one goal was to not reproduce the old one.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
the way I saw it is, I'm like, so I have a gym that's called Gym L'Atelier now that wasn't affiliated, and we affiliated it. So that helped because I'm like, it's a rebirth type of thing, right? It's not exactly that old thing. And so there's CrossFit Laval too that comes in, because when I say I'm getting L'Atelier, I have a bunch of like other people that come from the old gym. So instead of just saying it's like a continuum, or in my head and to my members, I tell them, well, Gym L'Atelier is the dad, CrossFit Laval is the mom, they have a kid. We have no idea what the kid is going to grow up into. We're just excited to give the kids the opportunity to be great. And that's how we're going to attack this gym. It's like, I don't really know in which direction it's going to go. Is it going to be more competitive, more health? Is it going to be more like, 40 plus years old average? Is it going to be like more like with CrossFit Kids? Is it going to be more like a senior program? Is it going to be, I don't know. Are we going to host level ones, level twos? I have no idea, right? I'm just excited to see and give the elements like I would to my kids necessary to make them grow. So it's a bit different than the first time around, where I was excited to go towards a vision. And if we go with the analogy of the kids, we all know someone that tries to live through their kids and that sometimes make them do stuff that is for their ego and not for the kid. And so I was probably doing that to my first business. I'm like, this is what I want the business to become. And so this time I'm more like, this is what the business needs in order to develop properly and to create its own personality type of thing. Because I don't decide who are my members. I mean, I guess to a certain point you can fire them, and we're all for that. I know, but yes, like, who's going to be my core group? Who's going to be, right? I have no idea.
Hmm. What's so in the expansion and contraction of CrossFit Laval? What was one of the most challenging times that you've had, and how was that a blessing in disguise? Now that you can apply the lessons learned.
Well, there's many things, but one can come up, and it was around 2014. CrossFit really blew up, right? Like, we had Camille winning the games. It started to like be talked everywhere. Everyone wanted to CrossFit. Everyone was doing the open and then in global gyms. And so we started to like not have enough space. Like, all the classes are full. And I was like, we're just going to get bigger. And we got bigger. We were lucky. Like, we're like, oh, it's a blessing. Like, the neighbor is like moving out. We can just take the next bay. Boom. Let's go. And at first, everything is great, right? I remembered the video from Coach. Like, you don't need to write pros and cons. Just be like, does this give a better service, right? And I'm like convinced at that moment that's going to give a better service, which we'll see is not necessarily true, because like, what's going to give a better service? Probably the education of your coaches and the way you run your classes, a lot more than the space and the equipment. But regardless, at that moment, I'm thinking, it's too crowded. What's going to give a better service? We're going to do this. So at first it works well, but then that's also when everyone from every gym started to think and be like, wait a second, these gyms are full. I hate my job. I'm going to start a gym. Right. So all of a sudden we go from the only gym on the North Shore of Montreal to like 17 gyms pop up. Boom, 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 right? Wow. All originating from my gym, obviously. I mean, it's not because it's bad people, right? It's just like because I'm the only gym. So for sure, the people CrossFitting are going to come from there. So all of a sudden it becomes difficult to pay rent, right? Because you have a bunch of people, okay, well, that's my clique, right? You leave, you're a great trainer and all this, and you leave to open your gym. You're going to, even if you don't ask them to follow you, some people are going to follow you, right? Like, it's totally normal. I'm not mad at all for that happening. So then things started to be a little bit tough there because we didn't really have a business plan. And yeah, and so we had to figure out a way to like get smaller. And why I think that was one of the best lessons I learned is I realized that a big business is not necessarily big, right? And a good business is not necessarily, you can be a small giant. Like you don't need to be Amazon to necessarily be successful online. You don't need a gym with 1,000 clients to necessarily be good. Like you just need a gym that is in line with what you want and allows you to build to run the business model that you want. I mean, that got even more true when I went in my garage and I was running a 25-person affiliate. And at one point I was paying myself almost the same thing as when I was running a 300-person gym, right? And I was like, wait a second here. There's something like to this. And yeah, it sounds very easy and true, but it's hard when you're in the moment to realize, because you always, especially in North America, right? We want more space. We
Right.
want more equipment. We want bigger cars. That's just that's the first one we think about. There's a problem, let's get bigger, right? Like and what is a good franchise? It's because there's like thousands of gyms, right? Like but really it's like, no, what's good is what allows you to do your mission, right? And allows you also the 50% of like paying the bills.
Yeah, the space thing is so interesting. It's like, it's almost like when, as you were growing, and by people, it could be considered the same as your 100 pull-ups analogy.
Yeah.
I'm doing this thing, so it must mean something, but it's going to expose a weakness somewhere else, right? Never being the specialist. And I mean, I've never dropped in at either place, but I know like places at like CrossFit South Brooklyn or CrossFit Louvre or CrossFit Paris, where they, will have 40 people in a class and they're running classes on the half hour and people love it still.
And it's small. I mean,
yeah.
CrossFit Louvre's square footage must be close to my square footage here, and they have like 6 times the members I have, right? Sometimes it's a blessing to, well, actually, not sometimes. It's always a blessing to have some constraints, because that makes you like problem solve, and that makes you think more efficiently. If you have tons of space, then the trickle down effect is more costs, yes. But then let's take a look at the real product. My coaches don't need class management.
Right.
My coaches don't even need to finish on time, because they can just go on the other side and start like it's fine, right? My coaches don't even really need to take care of having enough material. We have like thousands of everything. So all of a sudden, you don't really think about the best scaling option. You just use what's convenient. You get like, it just has a trickle down effect that your product is going to become average. Where on the opposite, take CrossFit Louvre. I went there like many, many times. What's amazing there is they're like, okay, we have very limited space. So we'll have limited equipment. We have limited like roof height. I mean, when I did the open workout, like actually 14.2, I think there, I hit my head doing chest to bars on the ceiling. Like, like to give you an idea, I'm not that tall.
Yeah.
And they're still running something that's amazing, because now everything has a reason, right? And it's, I can't remember who says that, but I know that staff member Denise Thomas has that on her form. Can't remember who came up with this, but what's in the way becomes the way. And so if you work really hard at removing everything that's in the way, I think you're missing out, type of thing.
That's what Tosh says. What you know is exactly what's stopping you from knowing.
100%.
Same, but different. And it's interesting then, like, longevity in CrossFit as well as longevity in affiliate ownership can always just be tied to those 10 general skills. And I move my hands because it's like, okay, one goes up, the other goes down, one goes up, the other goes down. And to try to, maybe there's a misconception that in fitness, we're trying to arrive at a level where they're all at 100. And then in business ownership, we're trying to arrive where they're all at 100, but it's actually impossible to have them all arrive at 100. They're all just evolving based on the tolerances or the capacities for each one.
100%. 100%.
So what's something that in this new venture you said, okay, I'm gonna purposely do this differently? Was there anything that you knew right away?
Yeah, the first thing is to not fall in the trap of what does Matt like, and Matt likes to coach, right? So I'm going to coach every hour.
Right.
And then hide behind like, well, that's what I like, right? So at the moment I coach 6 hours a week. It's actually hard, right? I would like to do more, which gives the opportunity for me to give feedback, gives me opportunity to develop other staff, gives me opportunity to talk to members, do my job, work out with people. And yeah, so the number one thing is just instead of working, and it's a good cliche saying, right? Instead of working in the business, you work on the business type of thing, and to understand that that's my role. The second thing that I'm doing differently, and it's hard. Some situation actually happened today where I had to do it, but don't even try to please everyone. Just have a clear vision of where you're going. Understand that it's probably going to seriously piss off some people. And you're not giving them a service to try to be, no, but I'll do better. Well, I'll do this. It's like, no. Like I'm clear. I'm like, this is going to stay like this because this is what I believe. And it's okay if it's not good for you. Maybe at one point it becomes good for you. And that's it. And that's hard, but that's like the key element, I think, of being able to, if you take the gym as a tribe, have a tribe that is going to fuel your passion and fuel your business, because then they truly are connected to you and to your business because it reflects their culture. If you're trying to like attract every single culture, then you have no culture type of thing, right? Unless you try to like make a melting pot of it, but still, then you still have a central culture that is going to piss off some people, because I want more of this, more of that. So you need to be at peace with like just being this is how it's going to be. This is not the only way that it could be, because that's what's cool with CrossFit. There's many ways to apply it, but this is a way we're going to do it here. And if you want, you can go somewhere else. And it's very similar to what you said in religion, right? If you actually read the text, then after you listen to the humans that are supposedly supposed to, like, I mean, they change it to the way they want to express it, which means you might believe you don't like the text when you listen to someone that doesn't talk about it in words that you like. And CrossFit to me is the same thing. You might believe you don't like CrossFit because it's my interpretation of CrossFit. That doesn't mean you don't like it, but at the same time, that doesn't mean I should change my interpretation because it works for me and it works for my tribe. And by changing it, I'm gonna get a bunch of people lost, right? Because they lost their guiding tenet. And it's another thing that we can take from business, but I truly believe that if people come in my gym and pay pretty expensive, right, compared to the Econo, whatever, they're not coming to do what they want. Like, they're coming for guidance, whether they realize it or not. That's why they're coming. And so that guidance needs to be pretty clear. It can't be me as the leader say, well, what do you want?
Right.
Oh, you want the class to start 5 minutes late? Okay, sure. It's like it can't be like that. It needs to be me saying, we're going to start on time. If you're 5 minutes late, there is no problem. If you start to be more than 15 minutes late, like, you need to ask the coach, because depending on what we're doing, it might be unsafe that you jump in. Just boom.
Yeah.
Like it, and with any other subject, same thing. Like, it needs to be, this is how we work.
Well, and that reminds me of 2 years ago now, when you gave the salt shaker talk at the Canadian affiliate gathering, right? And I know there was a lot of people in that room, so I hope most heard it. But, you know, give us a little quick rundown on the analogy of the salt shaker. And then what are some things that for you in your affiliate, no, our salt shaker goes at the center of the table. So
Cool. So the analogy of a salt shaker is like, let's say you have a round table at your house, and you like the salt shaker to be at the center of the table. You know where that center of a table is. You maybe even marked it, measured it multiple times. Like, you know, it's your table, you know, it's your salt shaker, you know where it goes. That analogy is basically your understanding of the kernel, the CrossFit kernel. Like, what is CrossFit, right? Its definition, its goals, the way you apply it. Like, that's the analogy, like with a salt shaker. So your gym's a salt shaker, and you put it like right on the kernel, or at least your understanding of it. And so when a guest comes to your house and says, I don't really like where the salt shaker is, I'm going to put it to the side. You're like, excuse me, like, I mean, this is my house. This is where the salt shaker goes. And they're like, oh, where does it go? It goes in the middle. And they might say, well, the middle is a little bit to the left. And you're like, well, no. Like, I know where the middle is. It's my table, my salt shaker. It goes over here. And that's pretty much our job at the gym, the owners and the coaches, is first to know where's the center of the table. And like you said, it's going to be different slightly for everyone. And there's no right or wrong, but where do you call the center? And then understanding that your group, if you're the coach, or the gym, if you're the owner, is the salt shaker. And your goal is to always put it back, because it's going to slip. It's always going to slip. And sometime you'll realize you're slipping, right? And I've been slipping sometimes like too far into the competition, right? And now, like, it's like the salt shaker is in the wrong spot. So I need to revisit, where's the center of my table? Oh, wow. Like, we need to move it. And in business, it'd be the same thing. And I think for a CrossFit affiliate to function, it's more important that you know where the center is and where your salt shaker needs to go, rather than us telling you, us being like, you know, CrossFit HQ or other more experienced coaches or business coaches telling you, you should put it there, right? It's like, do the homework of where's the center of my table.
Right.
Maybe you realize that you don't even know, or that it moved. Are you happy that it moved? Right? Like, and then where's the salt shaker? Whoa, it's all the way left.
Yeah. So what's something that's your center of the table?
Oh, well, for me is definitely, and that was a huge change here. And at first, like, people were a bit upset. It had to do with the programming. Like, for me, like, the practical application of CrossFit is the workout of the day. So not every workout are created equal, and not every workout are a CrossFit workout. I get it. Yes, by definition, we could say any workout is CrossFit, but not really, at least like in my gym. So staying close to the themes of CrossFit.com as far as programming. So, you know, couplets and triplets. Most of the workouts are going to be 15 minutes or less. We're going to go long once in a while, or like once a week. We're going to go heavy once or twice, right? Like, keeping these core concepts, then that's the center. And then all the work that we'll do about coaching that CrossFit programming is then going to have a trickle down effect to, like, we're at the center of the table. If we programmed it well, of course, we need to do some work to coach it well. But yeah, random programming or something that you're not too sure why it's programmed would be, for me, like, something that doesn't mean it's wrong, but you could do a little bit better. Like, even if you buy programming, if you never take the time to know, is this at the center of my table, right? Like, for example, the Open is soon. And let's say you buy some programming of someone that doesn't want to do the Open, and you want to do the Open. Like, does this serve your gym? Of course, you can just tweak it a little bit. I'm not saying don't buy it. But on the opposite, maybe they're prepping for the Open and you're not going to do the Open. Like, is this really helping you? So that's the number one thing I think I use as a guiding tenet.
Yeah, I think it's about ownership, and not business ownership, but just almost having a way of explaining why you did something. whether it's a coach or a gym owner or someone. I always tell every one of my coaches, like, hey, we follow CAP, there's lesson plans, but if you're blindly following the lesson plan, I ask you why, we have to figure out why. And one of the things was, the lesson for me was during the pandemic was we went down, instead of, a lot of gyms went to an hour 15 to give that extra 15-minute time for cleaning. We did the opposite. We went down to 45-minute classes and had the 15-minute window with the regular schedule. Everyone got fitter, and injuries went down significantly. And so it was, as we got to the tail end of the pandemic, a lot of folks were asking, hey, are we going to go back to 1-hour classes? I said, well, I'm not saying no, but let's just understand, like, everyone's getting fitter, everyone's injured less. Why would we then change it by adding more on? Right? Let's just take a look at that for a second. And I think it's sometimes maybe it is being too much in the business, or too focused or narrow-minded on one thing, to be able to just every now and then stop and look back and kind of just observe those pieces.
And I mean, the same thing that we said, like, sometimes you think your strength is something that is not. And for members, I think that this is a huge thing, is they usually think that volume and feeling completely exhausted is what gives them the result, right? Like, they just don't understand it's the intensity, and the intensity is not necessarily linked to volume. It's not necessarily linked to always being completely like smash, right? Like, so it's the same thing. It happens all the time. And that's why I'm like curious, and I would hope that like my members start to become more and more curious because of that. Because like you said, like, hey, they while they're a little bit upset is because they believe they're getting less results, right? But then you're like, why? How are you measuring your results? Right? You're showing them, maybe you're sweating a little bit less, maybe the duration is a little bit less, but look at all these numbers. Look at your body composition. Look at, right? So
yeah, and we actually, just as we're recording this, I had a member, it was a very amicable parting ways, but I had a member leave, and this person shared that they can only, it's hard for them to get to the gym, so when they do, they want to be able to scrape themselves up off the gym floor knowing they gave every single thing they had. And it's like, cool, that's great, but our salt shaker goes here, and this is what we do. So I wish you all the best in where you go to find that, but that's just not what we do for these reasons. So in kind of wrapping all this stuff up, I mean, we could unpack all this stuff for days. I feel like there's so much we haven't touched on, but if you could give a random piece of advice to, let's do two, okay? If you could give a random piece of advice to an affiliate owner, what would that be?
I would say pay as much attention to the business points of performance of your gym and know them just as well as the points of performance of the movements. And so the second one is then attack your weaknesses by using the same type of progressions you would, right? If your snatch is not good and it's the first pull, you're going to work on the first pull. So if you know that your marketing is not good, go find that tool, right? Or that progression that you need to do in order to get better. And I guess that was like 1.5. And the last one would be the same thing that we like to say about food. Like, allow yourself to test on yourself, like what could be the best. Just do the same thing as a business owner, right? Don't lose all that testing and curiosity that you have, like in the training and the food, of like, yeah, I'm going to try one more block, one less block. I'm going to try no sugar, yes sugar. Like, I'm going to try carnivore. I'm going to try. In business, it can be as simple as that too. Hey, you know nothing about Google AdWords, maybe try it, right? Just don't break the bank on it. But I mean, try it, see if it works, right? You don't necessarily need to hire an expert right away. You can like start to see if this works. Now I'm going to go get help and get an expert like in this. But it doesn't need to be that complex to make big leaps into your business if you apply what you already know how to do super well for fitness.
Yeah, simplicity rules all. And so then completely jumping into another aspect, what's a random piece of advice you would give a coach in their pursuit of coach development?
I think you need, like, what's really tough with coaching is it's very, in order to get better, unless you're blessed and you're in an environment that will deliver feedback all the time, it's very easy to just say I can't because my environment prevents me from doing better, right? So the best advice I have is like create the environment that you need. What I mean by this is like if no one gives feedback, just find the person that is the most likely willing to help you out a little bit. It might even be like a old member, like at the gym, not old in age, but old in like they've been there for a while. And you just ask them like, hey, I'm going to ask you one positive and one thing that I could do a little bit better, or film yourself, right? Just find solutions and go back to what we're saying, what's in the way, right? What you know prevents you from knowing, or what's in the way becomes the way. You're alone, want it to be better. Well, guess what? In 2007, I was pretty much alone trying to get better. And when you started, it was the same thing too. And now you have like the gym with probably the most amount of level 3s, right? At least in Canada. I know Justin's jealous. And so you didn't just say like, well, I'm far from the city, like of Toronto. It's going to be hard for me to get people that are willing to like further their education. No, you just, I'm going to find a way to create the environment that needs to be there. So that could be applied to life too. I think we're a little bit too much in the victim of the environment like era. Like, it's not my fault, man. My parents did this. It's not my fault. Like, my brother did this, or not. It's not my fault. My members think this. It's like, okay, cool. But take a little bit of ownership of what you can change, and like the environment, you can change it one little thing at a time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, exactly. How many times do we see that member like reaching for water? You don't need water. Get back to work, right? How many times do we need to hear that either in our coaching or in our just keep going, go unbroken on this set. I didn't want to hear that, but I know I can. Well, this has been great. Thank you, sir. Hopefully maybe this will be the first of many. And I couldn't think of a more fitting guest for our first episode. And so with that, 3, 2, 1, and time.